Time now, you'll get the little message that we're going live. And we are live on YouTube. Okay. Well, welcome everybody to the joint meeting of the Maryland Heights Township and Creve Coeur Township Democratic Clubs. I see a lot of names here I recognize and some I don't. I'd like to begin by asking you all to join in with the Pledge of Allegiance, and then I'll do some introductions. So if you would join me, I will share my screen. Pledge, which is right here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. I should stand. I don't know if you could tell on Zoom that I was sitting. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, I'd like to begin by introducing the president of, I'm Harvey Ferdman. I'm president of the Maryland Heights Township Democratic Club, and I'd like to introduce the president of the Creve Coeur Democratic Township Club, and that is Sydney Jackson. Sydney, I see you there. If you'd like to say a few words.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us here for our monthly meeting. Sorry, I'm not on camera right now. I'm actually in transition between two places. But it's great to see everyone on our Zoom, and glad you all could join us this evening.
Thank you. And I see a number of folks who are either in office or running for office. Some wear both hats today. So if you would introduce yourselves, and if you'd like to say a few words, that would be really fantastic. I think I'll start with Sarah Unsicker, current state rep and candidate for Attorney General. Sarah, if you'd like to say a few words. You're muted?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm State Representative Sarah Unsicker, and I'm so glad to be here and introduce myself. I have been a state rep since 2017, and I am running for Attorney General because we need safe kids and paid workers, and we need real justice in Missouri. For too long, we've been divided in Missouri and across the country. You know, we're divided by politics, religion. You know, they say we're divided by values, but really it's just wedge issues that are being used to drive us apart. And meanwhile, while we're talking about being divided and these divisions are keeping us from working together, we have some real problems in Missouri. We have problems like radioactive waste that's been causing cancer among children for decades, and problems just like kids being separated from their parents, you know, and problems like schools that need to do better, but they can't do better if they are constantly being sued by our Attorney General. So I am running for Attorney General in an effort to, I'm sorry, my phone's ringing, I'm being distracted. I'm running for Attorney General to work on solving some of these problems and bringing people together. You know, there is so much that unites us, and I really want to make a difference for people. I've seen all of the problems that are caused by the Missouri government and so many ways we can fix them that we're not doing. So I am running for Attorney General, and I will ask for your support. Thanks.
Go, Sarah.
Wrong screen. Thank you, Sarah. Very, very good. Next, I would like to introduce another candidate for Attorney General, Elad Gross.
Hey, everybody. No, thanks, Harvey. I won't say too much. Yeah, I'm running for Attorney General, but I just came to support and to learn more about this issue, especially the legislative piece of it. It's great to see so many folks here because this is such an important issue. It's unfortunate that right now, for those who don't know, from the Attorney General's office, I used to work there. We used to have a division that was dedicated to dealing with issues like this. It was called the Agricultural and Environmental Division. It's something that I feel very strongly we need to bring back because unfortunately right now, there is maybe only one attorney working on this environmental issue in our state right now at that office. And that is not a good thing. We need quite a few more. So if you do have some time, I know that Will Scharf, who's running against Andrew Bailey in their primary, is really highlighting this as an issue. So I would encourage all of you, if you have some time and you're motivated after this talk, I certainly am, to give a call to that office and tell them what you would like that office to do. I think that there's a particular opportunity for our voices to be heard in that situation now because they are going through an election. So now just thanks everybody for coming. I really appreciate it. And then I'm excited to hear hopefully some good updates from our great Just Moms group.
Thank you. And yes, we will have Just Moms on in just a little while. I also see LaDonna Applebaum. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, Harvey, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, no video, but we can hear you.
Okay. Well, sorry I'm not on video, but you wouldn't want me to be on video right now. I'm dealing with my my little puppy who got fixed a couple of days ago, and it's just not very happy in this household right now. But anyway, I'm excited to see so many people on the call, and there's names on here that I haven't seen before, so that is very encouraging. I'm LaDonna Applebaum. I represent the 71st District, which is most of Creve Coeur and then unincorporated areas of St. Louis County, that's north of Olive. I'm running for my 4th term. I have no idea what my election's going to look like yet until we get through filing. But I had a fundraiser last week and it turned out great. And I'm just going to keep keeping on, and anything I could do for anyone. I know we're all hurting right now for so many reasons. And I will be very honest with you, I'm hurting. I went to the J the other night with about 1,500, 2,000 people, and my heart hurts for so many. And I cannot stand the terrorism that's happening across the world. And I just want you all to know that I'm about peace and democracy and love. And I hope we all can get through this rough time together. And I'm really looking forward to hearing from Just Moms. They're some of my favorite people and they work their butts off. So anyway, thanks for letting me say a few words.
Thank you. And before we move on, that's you bring up a good point with all the turmoil in the Mideast. I think maybe it makes sense if we all take a moment of silent meditation, prayer, getting in touch with the universe, getting in touch with yourselves, whatever you belief system you have, just to pray for peace in the Middle East, healing of all those who are injured, and hopefully no one else gets injured. So if you would just take a moment. And thank you. Next, I see Nicole Greer. Would you like to take a moment to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Harvey. Hello, everyone. It's Councilwoman Nicole Greer from the city of Creve Coeur. And like many folks, I am up for re-election next year. And I just look forward to continuing to serve. I represent Ward 2 in Creve Coeur. And I look forward to continuing to serve and all the exciting things that are coming to Creve Coeur.
Excellent. Thank you. And if there's anyone that I missed who's either in office or running for office or both, please take a moment and introduce yourselves. Hearing no one. Okay. Any moment now, the Just Moms and Kristen Camuso from MCE will be joining us. They're actually on a panel at Washington University that they were invited to kind of last minute, and they made it clear to those folks that they needed to be available for this meeting. I told them roughly around 7:10 to 7:15 if they could be on and begin. We're at 7:14. So what I think I will do is just give you guys a chance maybe to speak amongst yourselves if you wish while I call them and see how they're doing on getting settled in and signing off.
Don Chapman is on at the bottom.
Oh, fantastic. There were more people than could fit on my screen. Good evening, Dawn. Good to see you on. Are you there? Hello. Also allow screen sharing.
Dawn is on mute.
Yeah, Dawn, you're on mute. She may be distracted at the moment. There we go.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now. No video, but we can hear you. You also have the ability to share screens.
Okay,
Thank you
hang
for
on.
joining us. For those of you who don't know, Dawn Chapman is one of the founders of Just Moms STL, a group that's been working first to deal with the burning landfill with the illegally dumped World War II nuclear bomb production waste in Bridgeton, near 270 and 70. Lots of progress there, lots of connections made there, and the group has since been asked to help out with other areas in the region and nationally that have been contaminated by our World War II efforts and building the bombs that were dropped on Japan and other environmental things. Dawn, that's about the briefest introduction I think I've ever done for you. I think I'll turn it over to you if you're ready.
Can you hear me okay now?
Yes.
Okay, I apologize. I'm on my phone right now. We just left an amazing panel discussion. It's still going on downstairs. So if you hear something, that's what's going on. Hello, everybody. I'm sorry I can't figure out how to put my video on, or I would. Let me check one thing here and see if it'll let me. Nope, it's got me on safe driving mode. So thank you, Harvey, for that introduction. Even tonight, my organization, Just Moms STL, is part of a panel discussion here at WashU with members of the Pruitt-Igoe community from St. Louis. You might have or remember hearing about the spraying done by the government and by the Army in the 1950s and 60s, the experiments that were done. And so we're here at this panel, and we also have quite a few residents here from Coldwater Creek who have been impacted currently. One who attended, was a parent at the Jana Elementary School, and others who previously lived there or are living there currently. So as of tonight, I'm pretty excited to report that there's a lot of unifying happening in St. Louis around all these experiments and honestly projects that are related to the Manhattan Project. You know, we you may have heard us talk about Westlake landfill, where the fire is and where the radioactive waste is. And I know some of you have heard about Coldwater Creek, and we've talked a little bit about the Weldon Springs site out in St. Charles County, which is a uranium processing plant that was built 1,000 feet from an already existing high school. But we also have this entire community of downtown St. Louis that was sprayed, that the military did experimental testing. And this is all part of and has origins in what we refer to as the Manhattan Project, which is where our federal government in the mid 40s developed secret projects to create the atomic weapons that were used in World War II. So tonight's panel, there's been a lot of discussion about what we thought we knew, what we know now, what we need to know, and about pending legislation that Senator Josh Hawley has introduced that would add St. Louis to the Radiation Exposure Compensation Act, and that would also expand that legislation into other communities as well that have been harmed by the experiments and the downwind testing of nuclear weapons in the country. So I'll start with what we know right now as of today. So we know that the government deliberately sprayed the residents of downtown St. Louis. That was deliberate. That was in an attempt to test and try and figure out what chemical weapons would look like if they were dropped on Soviet Russia. So they used the Pruitt-Igoe complex. Remember, it was about 33 buildings that were, I think they were 9-10 stories higher, maybe. And very similar to the buildings you would see in the cities that were in what was then known as the Soviet Union. So the testing was done, it was sprayed, it was like a white powdery substance, a lot like the mosquito spraying, if you remember that, only this was a bit more dense. And it was measured quite a bit. But what we don't know, and what the lawyers tonight who represented the folks on that case made very clear, even though they were dismissed, the federal government did dismiss that court case, is that they were not even allowed to have the documents needed for discovery. They were denied access to many documents that would have gone into more detail about what exactly was sprayed and how much and how often and what the measurements were. And so I want you to think about that for a minute. There's still documentation on experiments that were done to our residents that our government has that they won't let us see. And then I would ask, why do you think that is? So one of the things that we really need, and this is where I think it's really important who our Attorney General is, because this is something that we very much would like for the Attorney General for the state of Missouri to take up. I think that getting a hold of those documents, trying to get them classified, trying to figure how many are still classified, that's not something that should necessarily fall to civilians and ordinary moms like myself. This is something that we need his help with. So we already reached out to him and gave him 15,000 documents this past spring, of which he did absolutely nothing with. So we will be reaching out with this request as well. And I'm not holding my breath that anything's going to come of that, but you never know. Sometimes, people, if you get to the right person in the office, hopefully they can bark it up the ladder. I don't know. But that brings us to the other sites like Weldon Spring, Westlake Landfill, Coldwater Creek. Just this week, new documents have been dropping about the type of material that was used and processed in St. Louis at downtown Malincrot, which was, just so that everybody understands, only 2.6 miles away from Pruitt-Igoe. So it was technically right next door. So they didn't just get sprayed deliberately by the government. They got a lot of downwind contamination from the Malincrot uranium processing facility. But we know now that we had plutonium and we had other enriched products down at Mallinckrodt. And we know that what we don't know is how much, and what we don't know is where it went. You know, the government says that much of the radioactive waste from Mallinckrodt went and sat out at the airport, and that's how Coldwater Creek became contaminated. But many of the documents suggest that the government came back, and in fact, the waste that was stored at the airport was not even waste. It was highly valuable to them, and they came back many times and got it, processed it, experimented with it, and then brought it back or brought other stuff back with it. So unfortunately, it seems as though we call it an urban legend or myth, but it very much feels like the federal government kind of started this narrative, which is not the complete truth or complete picture of what actually happened in St. Louis, and somehow it's stuck. And as I'm sure Harvey would like to jump in and speak a little bit, much of what he has helped do with us for the past decade is untie this gigantic knotted ball of yarn, if you will, that has all these different components to it to try and sort everything out and get to the truth of what happened. Our concern with the documents that are coming out even today, and what we just learned downstairs with the spraying, and especially out at Weldon Spring, is that some of these sites, not Westlake yet, but some of the other sites are in the middle of cleanups or have already had sort of a sort of cleanup done and need more done. But if you don't have the records of what actually was stored, what leaked, what all you have at these sites, then the current regulators are not testing for everything they need to be. And that means that, there are things that are slipping through the cracks. There are contaminants that could be out there that we don't know about that people could be at risk from. So, and it does matter what these things are, because not to go into a science lesson, but many of these things behave differently when they get into the groundwater or when they're exposed to the air, depending on the size and the weight of the particle, how far they'll blow on a windy day. So, there's many reasons why currently we need that data. So right now we're in the process of unifying, as I said earlier, and getting all the groups together. And honestly, we're on a huge fact-finding mission. On a side note to that, because I would say that's been going on now for about 10 years. That's kind of been something that we've all been working on. But we also have legislation that we desperately have to get passed. It's federal legislation. And one of the barriers, when we went to DC a few weeks ago and spoke with some of the House members, of which this did pass in the Senate, so it now goes on to the House after it goes through a conference committee, but we didn't find anyone opposed, Democrat or Republican. Nobody was opposed to the Radiation Exposure Compensation Act, including St. Louis and expanding it, except for one person. And that just so happens to be Representative Jim Jordan, who, if you were paying attention, is trying to become the Speaker of the House. So today has been a very busy day. Last week, Congresswoman Ann Wagner, whose district touches the Weldon Springs site and the Westlake landfill, was very vocal about not supporting him as Speaker, but today has come out and said that now she will. And so we have been making phone calls to her office, trying to get her to have a conversation with him. I don't know where he stands on this legislation. His only issue was fiscal. It had nothing to do with the fact that he didn't think that anyone deserved it or anything. He understood that it was just the price tag. But he seemed somewhat sympathetic. We don't know where he stands right now. And so one of the things that you all can do, which would be a huge help to us, is sometime tonight or tomorrow, you could send an email to Congresswoman Ann Wagner's office and encourage her to, if she's going to vote him in as speaker, to reach out to him and make sure that he is in favor of the legislation that at the very least would save the lives of many of her constituents. So to really quickly tell you what RECA is a congressional act that was passed, and it covers communities like the community in Oppenheimer, the movie, the Trinity site. That community directly downwind of that is the Tularosa Basin, some of the Navajo Nation out there, portions of New Mexico, Arizona, and portions of Utah that received fallout when they did the testing, not just of the Trinity, but of other nuclear weapons above and below ground testing done. There are, to give you perspective for the Navajo Nation, there are over 500 uranium mines that our federal government has still allowed to remain open and not cleaned up, that are still just, and when I say open, we went in there and designated them as uranium mines. They went in there and did a lot of the work, and then we just left. We left all our machinery there, and it's leaking. It's leaking into their groundwater. It's leaking into their streams. So we have that going on out there. We have the miners that were involved in that. And then we have sites like ours that dealt with the processing of the waste and some of the enrichment. So this legislation would mean that for St. Louis, if you grew up in one of the impacted zip codes and you could, prove that you lived there for over 2 years, and there's a list of cancers and illnesses that if you come down with, you were eligible for either $50,000 if you're alive. If the person has passed away, then they're eligible for survivor benefits. Their family is, and that's $25,000. But you can also choose, it's an either or, unfortunately, to have your medical bills reimbursed if you have one of those illnesses or cancers, and that does not have a cap on it. So, and RECA is RECA, the Radiation Exposure Compensation Act is what it's called. So we are somewhat lucky, if you want to say that, that we are attached to the National Defense Authorization Act. So we are not on standalone legislation. We are on something that very much has to pass. Should we get a speaker in Congress, get back to business? We are obviously, like many of you, terribly frustrated with what we're seeing with Congress. We've worked so hard to educate, and we're just hoping and praying that we don't have to leave our families and go back to DC for another couple of days and start from scratch and do more educating, because that's a lot out of us. But that's where we are. I end on a hopeful note. We have a lot of good things going on. We also have the fact that it's an election year, and it's going to be a presidential election year. So more than ever now, we are keeping score, if you will. And I think you're going to see that from us. We are definitely bipartisan. We don't care who fixes this. It just needs to happen. And we'll applaud and thank anyone who does. But it's a unique set of things that we need right now. And I think that our asks are actually pretty simple and logic. So we do have a meeting coming up this week. It is at Trinity Church in Florissant. It is on Thursday, and it starts at, I believe it's 6:30, but I will email Harvey so that he can get that date and time and location out. But we could use your help there if you guys, could attend. We'll have kind of a more detailed call to action by then on what we need and which elected officials we need to target.
Dawn, are you okay taking questions? I'm looking up the Trinity Church thing now because
Absolutely.
I am planning on attending. Just looking for it now. I'm in the wrong month, unfortunately. Shall get there. If anyone has any
sorry.
questions, just unmute and go for
I
it.
just saw DeMarco's comment. I'm sorry. It's probably really hard for you to hear this.
It is this Thursday at 8 p.m. That can't be right.
I was gonna say that's past my
That's
bedtime.
when it ends, but it is this Thursday at Trinity
Okay.
Church in Florissant.
Yeah, it's Trinity Church of the Nazarene.
On it, I'm sorry. It was texted to me, and I don't think I can find it that quickly. Are there any other questions while we're looking for this? Let's see if I have a question. So this federal legislation, my understanding is it has passed through the House. I'm sorry, it passed through the Senate as a attachment to the National Defense Authorization Act.
Yes.
But now we're waiting for the House to be able to address legislation once they have a speaker in place. And so it would be the same bill and the same amendment, or do they go through another amendment process?
So it would go to confirmation. So there would be the Democrats and Republican conferees. It goes through there, and that's the step it takes before it gets to the House. And we have to hope and pray that it stays as is, because during the conferee process, right, the confirmation process, things can be pulled out of the bill. Bills can be changed, the amendments and whatnot. And that is kind of a closed door process. We are not going to have any eyes, ears, or anything on that. The only thing that I can say that this ridiculous clown show in Congress is giving us is a couple of extra days, little over a week plus, to really educate the conferees. We do have a list that we can provide you with of who is going to be looking at our at the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act. The good news is we have several House members from Missouri that are going to be on that. I think Blaine Lukermeyer, Jason Smith. I'm trying to think of who else. And we have reached out to them, and they are saying that absolutely they are supportive of it. But once it leaves conference, it's going to go to the House. And if we are still in this when it leaves conference, then we can breathe a sigh of relief, because once it hits the House floor, it just gets voted on as a yes or no, right? It can't be changed. Nothing can be amended. But once it passes the House, it's got to bounce back to the Senate really quick for perfection. So there will be another vote, but again, that'll be kind of a yay or nay. And then it goes up to the president's desk. So we think that other than Representative Jim Jordan, we feel like we've got the wind at our back.
Does it make sense then for our folks who want to write letters or send emails to send emails to the people on the conferee committee?
So it does. One thing that is really hard, a little civics. Some of the conferees really get a little cranky when people from out of state reach out. They really want people that are local, that are impacted. But we do have a list of conferees that seem to be very open to both that we can get you. The biggest help that we could have right now is we have to leverage the Speaker of the House position. You know, this is a very powerful position, as we all know, and we don't need the person who's going to be in that position in opposition, and we certainly don't need our House members voting for somebody who is not going to, be in support of this legislation. Like I said, that's going to save so many lives. So the best thing anyone could do just for the next day or two is tweet, email, and call Representative Ann Wagner's office and just really encourage her to have those conversations. It's kind of fun talking to you all, part of the Democratic Committee, because you know more than anyone else that the reality of Congress, we can appeal to these conferees, right, emotionally and educate, but there is an amount of horse trading that happens behind the scenes that we don't know about, right? We don't have a lot of say in, but certainly members of the House like Ann Wagner, Blaine Lukermeyer, they do.
Excellent. Okay, let's see if there's any. I see her. Sandra has her hand up.
Yes, Don. We have government, we, America, we have been at this for many years. And as I said in my chat, I worked at Fluidigo and my mother did die of cancer. There's no solutions. It's just discovering, but there's no solutions that I see. What's your thoughts on that?
So I do have some exciting news. The Pruitt-Igoe zip code has been added into RECA. So those that lived and worked at Pruitt-Igoe are going, if this legislation passes, are going to be eligible to be included in it. That was something that we, in addition to some of our Pruitt-Igoe friends and family, Ben Phillips being one of them, we spent all day Friday, Ben and I, bouncing around on the phone with Senator Hawley's office, Congressman Cori Bush's office. So there will be compensation and medical benefits available for those that lived and were exposed at Pruitt-Igoe should this pass. And that's a huge win. But you're correct that we have a lot more information that we need to get about what exactly happened at Pruitt-Igoe. There were measurements taken after they did the spraying. We need to know what they measured because those will give us the data that we need. And hopefully that some of these lawyers downstairs right now will need to reopen this litigation. The number one thing for Pruitt-Igoe right now and the other sites is getting access to documents that are still classified. And what we need to do there is we need to appeal to what is now our Attorney General, Andrew Bailey. We also need to be, and this is something that this committee can help with, speaking with the candidates for Attorney General. I know I saw Elad on here, who's just been phenomenal. So, and I have no doubt that if he got elected, he would hit the ground running on this. So,
and Sarah Unsinger is on also.
Yes. Yep. And Sarah is too. And Sarah's been amazing. And I think that, you know, one thing that could happen that we always need help with, because I'm not a lawyer, but if perhaps those two, maybe there can be some collaboration about what we should be asking for and what next steps are to get these documents, because I don't know what it takes to declassify and who can do that and where we should request what. But again, I am happy though to announce that if this passes, though, our friends and loved ones that were horribly mistreated and experimented on at Pruitt-Igoe will have some form of justice, at least through this legislation. But it is my opinion that for them, this legislation isn't enough. And that once those documents become public, there needs to be a massive lawsuit filed against the federal government for what it did.
Thank you. That little silence in there was intentional. I hear another voice. More questions?
Yes, this is Diane. I would be remiss not to congratulate Dawn for working on this, her activism, persistence. I'm amazed and awed, and I respect and wish you all the success in the world.
Well, thank you. You know, I have some, look, I haven't done this alone. I couldn't do this alone. You know, Harvey Ferdman has been there every step of the way. And, you know, the personal cost is not lost on him as well. You know, again, you have Sarah Unsicker, you have Ella Gross, who have been there the entire time, pushing as hard as they can. You know, Elad has been to just about every meeting, and everybody can laugh at me. I'm not good at technology, hence I can't get my video screen to work right now. So Elad has made sure to video and make sure that all of our meetings are live and people can watch them if they can't attend. And I can't tell you how important that is to us, because as we know, people that have been exposed to this, they have tremendous health impacts. And it is very difficult for many of them to get out. We've had people that have watched these meetings live and been and rewatched them when they're recorded as they're getting chemo treatments. And that is just so heartbreaking to me. So, but I think that we are very close here. I think we're at the top of the mountain here on many issues. And I think that we're going to see some really important stuff come out about these sites. And I think we're going to have a clear path forward soon.
Excellent. Any other questions, comments? Okay, hearing none. Thank you. Our next meeting will be in, again, the third Monday of November. I will be sending out a notice. There was a question last time about, and thank you, Dawn. You and the whole group's efforts are much appreciated. And thanks for the time. There was a question about how the Democratic presidential caucus is going to be run. I haven't seen anything official in writing yet, but my understanding is that they're working hard to make it as accessible as possible for everybody, people who have work hour restrictions, people who have disability restrictions or otherly abled restrictions, etc. And I don't want to speak ahead of time, but what I heard they're considering, I think everyone's going to like. And I will try to have some level of official who can speak to that directly on next month. Unless there's anyone online today that knows what has actually been decided that can be made public. I know a lot of folks there are involved in a lot of things. I think that kind of wraps up our meeting. Last chance if anyone has any questions. Oh, Lois, I see your hand up.
Hi, I just wanted to ask if there is anybody on this Zoom meeting that would be willing to call Senator Tommy Tuberville's office. I can put his phone number in the chat, but as you are probably all aware that we have our service personnel who are going to the Gulf near Gaza. And we have so many of our military personnel who have not received their advancements yet because Senator Tommy Tuberville is holding up. He's the chief of the Defense Committee in the Senate, and he is refusing to have any conferences in the Senate on these advancements, these promotions for our military personnel so that they would be moved up. So we are lacking people in lead positions in much of the military, and they're risking their lives. And if anything happens to them, first of all, they're not getting the advancement in salary that they deserve. All of these people that have been nominated are very well qualified, and Senator Tuberville is holding it up.
Please add the phone number in the chat.
I will do so. Please
Okay.
call. Thank you. That's all I wanted
Yeah,
to say.
and Lois, if I remember correctly, there's also a number of key ambassadorships that are being held up.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yes, too. I call Senator Tuberville's office very often, but I'm sure if he's overwhelmed with phone calls, he might change his opinion. I don't know.
I just want to mention, hearing from direct constituents is always a good thing to do. So in addition to calling his office, I suggest that, unless, Lois, you think it's not appropriate, to call our two senators and ask them to please work with Senator Tuberville to get this unlocked and moving. It is really important. Thank you. Nancy Price put down, ambassadors to Israel and Egypt, two countries we really need some help with right now, guys. I'm not even going to go into that right now, but yes, key positions. Okay, any other? That's wonderful, Lois. Thank you. Anything else from anybody? This is a good time.
Thank you, Harvey.
My pleasure, Diane. Thank you, everyone. Anything else? Okay. Hearing none, I will
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, is there a second? we really don't follow the protocol that closely, since this is.
I know. Lois is still unmuted.
It's really a program, not an official.
Okay.
Official meeting where we go over minutes and all that, but.
We thank you again. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Have a good evening, everyone. See you in 3 weeks. I'll leave the screen open just for a minute or two, so if you want to save the chat, now's a really good time to do that.